thank you everybody for being here. It's really good to see people being interested in accounting. Yep, my slideshow started. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about accounting journal entries. We're going to go over an accounting adjustment, which, as Megan mentioned, that's mostly our replacement for the J09. I'm going to say it's kind of like J09 plus because you can actually do a little bit more and then in some cases a little bit less, but we'll get into that. I'm also going to show you how to do a manual journal entry. This will be the replacement of the paper forms or the Excel forms that you would fill out and then send to Banner General Accounting. So we're going to skip that step and get you right into the system. And then the last thing I'll demo is the payroll accounting adjustment. So this is our favorites replacement. So again, rather than filling out a form, you're going to go directly in the system and you're going to do your adjustment there. Not to worry, all of these will actually route through general accounting to approve, so you won't have to worry about messing up something on your ledger. We'll be there as the last line of defense to make sure that doesn't happen for you. I'll go over a few major differences and I'll have time for questions at the end, but I also want to have time for questions after each of the demos. That way it helps break it up a lot because it's a lot of information. Most of you will probably need to see it a few times before you start to feel comfortable with it and then get your hands on it. But I'll try to make it as simple as possible. So there's 4 major types of journal entries in Workday. The first is the operational journal. Now this one is automatically generated by Workday. It's the result of other transactions. So all of the supplier invoices, the expense reports, your P card and T card charges, these all generate operational journal entries, which just really allows you to go in and to view the accounting behind the transaction. So if you're trying to find something where maybe one of your T card charges posted on the ledger, you can view that operational journal and find out where it went just to help you get in the right direction. These are something that you don't have to worry about yourself. Workday takes care of it for you. The accounting adjustment will also generate the accounting for you. So with the accounting adjustment, that is allowing you to override accounting information on select types of transactions. So I'll explain a little bit more of that when we get into it. The payroll accounting adjustment is also in Workday a type of journal. It allows you to override the key, the cost center, all of that on the actual payroll itself. So Workday is going to generate the journal for you. You don't have to know your debits and credits. Workday will take care of that. And then the last type of journal is the manual journal entry. And this one, it will require you to put in all of your different FDM elements. That's your foundation data model. That's the key, your ledger account. You'll have to enter all of those. And unfortunately, you will have to also enter the debits or the credits. So we'll go ahead and we'll get right into our demonstrations. That's where I want to spend most of my time. Okay, let me know, can you see Workday?
I see the PowerPoint.
Okay. Let me just stop and restart then. Sometimes I may have a little bit of technical difficulties. That's probably the problem more so than Zoom. Okay. So I have a supplier invoice that I have already identified that I need to do some corrections on. So I am going to navigate to the supplier invoice. So you would have already identified this one as having some issues because you've reviewed your budget report, you've reviewed your trial balance, and you want to make a correction. So when you go in, you're going to go directly into the invoice itself in order to make these corrections. So the accounting adjustment, there's a couple of little nuances with these. You can only do it on paid supplier invoices, paid expense reports, and credit card transactions. So if those have not been paid yet, it won't give you the option to adjust. So you would want to wait until after that payment's gone out the door, and then you would be able to come into the system and make the adjustments. If it's any other type of expense transaction, you're going to have to do a manual journal entry, or if it's payroll related, you'll do the payroll adjustments. So I do have a decision tree that I've provided to Megan, and she'll pass out to the group after the presentation's over. That'll walk you through the process of determining which type of journal that you're going to do in Workday. I find that to be very helpful just because they're all so different and it can be confusing which one you want to go in and do depending on the situation. So I've got my supplier invoice here. I can see that it says it's paid. So this one I do know I can go ahead and I can do the accounting adjustment. So you will take the related action off the supplier invoice up at the top of your screen, and then you'll navigate to accounting and adjust accounting. If you also have the option to view accounting, if you want to see the ledger account and the key that this has already posted to, you can view the accounting. In this case, we're going to go straight to adjust accounting because we already know it's wrong. So you're able to adjust anything that has the box around it. So you can change the budget date if that's what you need to do. More commonly, you're going to want to change your proposed spend category. So this one originally went to engineering services, and maybe we've decided that's wrong, that that's not the right spend category. So we'll go ahead and we'll X that out, and we're going to override it with our new information. In this case, we had engineering services and we decided it was really architecture that we paid for. So that's what we need to change our category for. Could have been computers, could have been, any sort of thing. You can just find the new category that was appropriate. And then once I made that change, it did open the block for me to add my change reason. So we'll need to do that. You have two options here. You are able to select both. What I just did was a spend category adjustment. So if that's the only thing I was changing, that's what I would want to select. I am also going to show you how to change the key. So we're also going to choose the incorrect work tags. You can add your memo here. That block is also an option. This would be a great place to put a description of why you're making the change. So that you need to correct the accounting, that the spend category was wrong, the cost center was wrong. You can add that here. And then we can also change our key. So in this case, this one went to a grant, and maybe we decided that wasn't really appropriate. So best practices with Workday, if you're changing the key, you'll want to go ahead and you're going to want to X out of all these additional work tags that came over with the first key. If you don't and you use a different key, Workday is only going to override the values that are on the new key. So you could be left with a grant or a gift that you don't intend to be on your new key. And then because of configurations in Workday, it will actually stop you and it won't let you go past that. Because you're only allowed to have the specific values that are allowed on a key. So I am going to give this one to the controller's office since that's where I work. So we're going to change it to the controller ENG key. And then one other thing that you're able to change here is the expenditure treatment. So this one didn't have one initially, but maybe you did need to add one. So this could have been fundraising, or it could have been foreign travel, and we want to tag it that way. This is a great place to do that because this is a reportable field. So you're able to view all of your documents by that field later. So I've made my changes, and the last thing that we can do is we can add an attachment. So on the accounting adjustment, the attachment is not required, but it does give you the option to add one. This is a great place if somebody in your department or another department directed you to change the spend category or change the key on this transaction to add that attachment. Just so that you have that backup saying, well, so-and-so told me to do it, so this is why I'm doing it. So it's a great place for that. You can also attach a copy of your budget that's showing that it's in the wrong place. It will help you later if you're doing research and you wonder, well, why did I make this change? You can go back and you can look at all of your attachments. So the last thing I will do here is hit submit. I'm going to wait until after we pause for questions, just in case you want to review any of these fields. Okay, so any questions?
There is one in the chat. It says, can we do this in any month of the fiscal year or just the month that the transaction originally posted?
So you are able to do this for the entire fiscal year, because definitely you're going to find things after that original month. So the change will occur in whatever the current month open is. So if you did the original transaction in July and you didn't find it till October, the update will post in October. Any other questions?
That's it from the chat for now.
Okay. There's no other questions. I'll go ahead and I'll submit and we will go on. One thing that I did not point out initially, you can see here that the company does not have a box around it. So this is not actually something we're able to update with an accounting adjustment. So if you had that charge that you really should have charged it to Foundation originally, but it posted to UNF, you won't be able to do an accounting adjustment to fix that, but I will actually show you in our manual journal entry how you can take care of that one. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll submit this one. And then you can see that the next step up on this one was budget check. So these do go through budget check. They will also go to the various managers on the entry. So that can be your cost center manager, it could be your gift manager, your grant manager. It just depends on what elements that you had on the transaction. And then once it gets all of their approval, it will route through general accounting for one of our accountants to review and approve. Okay. Our next demonstration will be the manual journal entry. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can transfer an expense over to Foundation. And it's not called Create Manual Journal Entry, it's just called Create Journal. So this one, it's going to require us to put a little bit more information. So it is going to ask for the ledger first. So what we are looking for is our UNF actuals ledger. So what I am focusing on right here is actual revenues, actual expenses. You will do your budget type transactions in a different way. So I will let budget explain that when it's their turn. And then our accounting date will be today's date. The journal source. When you're doing this type of journal, you're always going to choose manual journal entry. We will need to designate a balancing fund, but I find that easier to do once we've already completed the entry. Workday does require a balancing fund anytime your journal entry crosses funds. So that's a big difference between the J09s that you used to do and Workday, is that you're able to put these entries into the system yourself, and you are not limited to staying within a single fund. Then we also need to add our memo. So this will be your explanation of what this journal is accomplishing. Um, are you transferring expenses to foundation? You could put that in the memo. Are you, fixing an error that posted, correcting something for budgeting purposes? That's all information that's really great to put in your memo. So once we filled that in, we will hit continue. The Workday automatically gives us 2 lines, but you are not limited to 2 lines. You can add as many different lines as you need to complete your journal entry. You will have to have at least 2 though, because it does have to be a balanced entry. So you have to have at least 1 debit and 1 credit. So for simplicity, I'm just going to do 1, but you can see here we have the plus sign. You can add as many lines as you need. One thing is that Workday will add to the top of this little chart here. So if you want your entry to be in a specific order, you can move your lines. So you can just use these arrows to move them around. You could also choose to add the plus after a certain line. So that just be a little bit to get used to, but I'm going to take it back to just 2 lines to keep it simple today. So you'll notice here that the first piece of information is the company. So it did take the company from what we put in the header, but it is actually something that you're able to adjust. So you are able to choose the foundation on a single on lines in your journal entry. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move a charge over to foundation, because that's something that we commonly need to do here at UNF. So we're going to choose foundation. The next piece is the ledger account. So a common charge that I see moved over to foundation is food. So I'm going to use food and beverage as my ledger account. So we are transferring this to foundation. So we're going to use that as our debit because expenses increase with debits. So we want it to increase on the foundation company. The memo here will appear on the line item of your journal. So this is a great place, since this was a charge that's already posted, to go ahead and reference that supplier invoice, reference that you're correcting the company, because this will show up on reports like your trial balance and your budget versus actuals reports, so that you can remember what it is that you are doing with the entry. Your external reference ID. So this is a great place to put invoice numbers. So we'll need a key. So if you are working with foundation, Aaron Davis will probably provide a key that you should be using for whichever gift you are moving this expense to. We're just going to choose one that I know is on the foundation company. And then the last piece of information that we need to add is a spend category. So the ledger account that I chose starts with a 7. So I know that's one of my expense accounts, because in Workday, all of our 7s are expenses. Anytime we choose an expense account, we also need to choose a spend category. So I'm going to choose food products because that goes with the ledger account that I originally chose. You're probably familiar with the spend categories and revenue categories from other presenters. Workday does use those to drive the ledger account. However, when we're doing a manual journal entry, Workday says they know what they're doing, so we're going to let them choose the ledger, choose the spend category. So unlike other transactions where you only get to choose one or the other, the manual journal, you get the power to choose both. And then on our next line, I'm going to leave that one as the UNF Board of Trustees. So that's our UNF company. And we're going to transfer the expense off of UNF. So I'm going to use the same account code. So food and beverage. And this will be my credit. It originally would have posted to UNF as a debit, and now I need to credit it off. So this is, we can add our memo. And then our last thing is that we need our key. So I'm just going to pick on the controller's office again as my key. Again, because it's an expense account, I do have to use a spend category. So this one, we're going to use food. So those are my two lines. I filled in everything there I need. And then one other piece of information that we need to add for this one is an attachment. On the manual journal entry, it does require that we have an attachment. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that there. We're going to go back to our journal. And then remember, I told you at the beginning that if we cross funds, we have to designate a balancing fund. So I'm going to show you how to check that. You'll go over to your additional work tags and you're going to look at the fund on both your debit and your credit, and you're going to see, do they match? If they're the same, you can skip that balancing fund. If they are different, you need to choose one. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. These just tell Workday that we need to generate claim on cash entries in order to keep our funds in balance. But Workday will generate the same transaction no matter which balancing fund you choose. So just choose one that's on your entry. Okay, so I know this was definitely a lot of information, so I'm going to go ahead and pause here before I hit submit for questions.
Ashley, there is a question in the chat about a character limit in the memo box.
Okay, good question. There actually is not a character limit. I know it looks like it's a very small box and there's not a lot of room there, but you are actually able to continue on past what you're able to see. So as far as I know, I have not run into a limit, so you can explain as much as you need there. And the same thing is true for your individual line items. And these ones actually also, you can actually expand this one so that you can see everything you're typing. So that's really helpful. Unfortunately, we don't have that expand option on our header. Any other questions? So, and this is definitely a lot of information, and I do know that CPDT is working with me on putting some manuals together and some training. So there will be additional training down the road for these types of entries.
And Ashley, I'm sorry, there was one more question.
Okay.
Can you say again, when you would enter a manual entry versus in the previous example attributed to an invoice?
Okay. So in this case, so you're able to use the accounting adjustment on an invoice only if you're not crossing company and if you don't need to split it between two accounts. So if you actually needed to split that accounting adjustment, it won't let you. So you're limited to just that one line that was on the original invoice. So that would be the time when you're going to use the manual entry versus the accounting adjustment. I would say as much as you can use the accounting adjustment, if it's within those circumstances, definitely use it. So if it's going just to a single different spend category, it's staying within UNF, always use that accounting adjustment. It's just much easier. It'll be those other circumstances where maybe you need to cross to foundation or I need to split it between two different departments. That's when I'm going to use the manual journal entry instead.
Okay, and actually one more. And on this, the required attachment, what would be an example of an attachment that would be added to justify this process?
Okay, so this one, it would be really great if you had an email saying that this charge should have been, posted to foundation instead. It would also be really good to have that original invoice or to have a screenshot of your trial balance showing that the invoice posted where you're moving it from. So with the accounting adjustment, you didn't need as much because it tracks where that invoice has posted. So you're able to see that in the history, where with the manual journal, you don't have that level of detail. So we have to add a little bit more, but that's a really good question.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and submit this one. And it looks like I generated an error. Okay, so don't think that the month of April is open. So let me go back to March. Okay. So that was just a little tricky error because I am working in an old testing tenant. We had not opened the month of April for journal entries on probably the foundation company. So I just had to change the date. If you were to get an error like that, you would definitely want to reach out to somebody in general accounting so that we could open up the month for you, because the current month should always be open. So then the next step on this one, just like the first, was that it's going to go through budget check. So this will go to budget. It will go through all of your different cost center managers. If you have this one, also is going to the foundation company. So it's going to go over to foundation to also review and approve this so they can decide, is this expense allowable on the gift that you've designated? And it will route through general accounting. One more demonstration. So our last demonstration is the payroll accounting adjustments. So this is our FAREDS replacement. I do have a test employee here that I am going to use as our example. So Hermione Granger is our test employee. So you will just go ahead and you'll fill in your employee's name that you need to do the adjustment for. It automatically defaults the pay group and the company. So that's going to be Hermione's company that she works for, which in this case is the UNF company. And the next piece of information that we need is the change reason. So it's pre-select. So you're just going to choose one of these. I'm going to go ahead and choose administrative error. So maybe we didn't get this employee process to the correct company or the correct cost center originally. And then you'll need to know the pay period that you need to adjust. So you are actually able to multi-select the pay period. So, you know, this employee's been on the books a little while. She's been working all year, and maybe you have, you know, I don't know, 10 different pay periods that need adjusted. You're able to actually select all of those. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to choose one and keep it simple. You can do them one at a time, or you can multi-select. And then you'll choose OK. And then it's going to ask us to put in our pay component. So you're going to use your earnings, and then you're going to choose what type of salary it is. So in this case, Hermione only has one salary, so it's regular. So we're going to choose that. And then now our trick to see the data is that you're going to have to just click in this refresh journal lines box, and it's going to bring up Hermione's pay information. So this shows us where her pay is currently posted to. So we can see that she is posted on the University of North Florida company, and that her key is the controller ENG key. So maybe we've determined that Hermione, you know, this is not the right key. She's really supposed to be paid from foundation. So this is a case where we're actually able to move her to the other company. So what we'll do is in this second section here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to choose the plus box to give us a line. Now this one, you can add more than one line. So if you need to split her charges between, you know, two different cost centers, so maybe she helped out another department and they're going to help you pay for her salary, you can do that here. You can just move a portion of her salary over to foundation if that's what you choose, or you can move her entire pay somewhere else. So we're going to just move her. And the way you're going to designate that is you're going to put where it says debit amount, you're going to put the amount that you're going to move to each different place. So we're going to keep it simple. We're going to move all her salary over to foundation. So you will have to add as many lines as you need to make her total pay in this block match what you have up here. So if you needed 2 or 3 lines, you're just going to have to add those until they all add up. And then you're going to choose her pay component. She only has one, so we're going to choose the regular salary, and we have to choose the company. So we're going to go ahead and move her over to foundation. It does not automatically find a key for her. So again, just get rid of everything that's there and look up your new key. I'm going to look for a foundation key. So in theory, you're already going to know what key you're moving her to because you've already been talking to foundation and you know the key for that gift you're moving her to. So you're going to choose that. This looks like a good one. And that is all that you need to add here. So there is no attachment that you need to add here. The system will keep track of it for us, where her pay was originally, where we're moving it to. So you don't have to prove that. And one last thing you'll do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to hit update amounts. This is going to add up everything that you have in this block here to help you make sure that you've moved 100% of her salary. So you've told 100% of her salary where to go. So these are only used for accounting reasons, so that part of her pay needed to go somewhere else, that sort of thing. If you find out that Hermione was on sick leave the whole time and she should have recorded that, that won't be a payroll accounting adjustment. You would actually have to get with payroll to do an actual payroll adjustment versus just fixing the accounting. I'm going to pause for questions. Any questions?
There is one in the chat. Who is authorized to make adjustments for pay?
Okay, so all of our cost center finance specialists will be able to do this. You will only be able to see the people that are in your cost center. So you won't see everybody for the whole campus, but all of the cost center finance specialists should be able to do that. So that's going to be most of our office managers, people in those types of roles. Any other questions? Okay, we have gotten past the hardest part now. Did it switch back over to my slideshow? Or are we still in Workday?
Nope, we're back in your slideshow.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll just summarize a couple of the major differences for us. The end user will complete the journal corrections directly in Workday rather than filling out a request form and sending it over to general accounting for processing. Users have the ability to transact across all the different chart of accounts elements in Workday. So you're not limited to just staying within your cost center or within your fund. And you're also not, in most cases, not limited to your company. Like as I showed you, you can move payroll over to foundation. You can do manual journal entries to move expenses over to foundation. And then our last major difference is that all the journals will route to the appropriate approvers based on the work tags that you enter, and will route to central accounting for that final approval. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. There are no other questions. I do really appreciate everybody taking the time to learn about journals. I'll go ahead and I'll emphasize that once we go live, general accounting will be here for any sort of questions you have. Even if you just need us to help you figure out what the debits and credits should be, what the ledger account should be, we'll be here to help with that. And we will definitely, there will be training for you. So there will be more opportunities to even dig a little bit deeper than we did today.
And there is one more question, if you can view where the entry is in the approval queue. And there is a, on all the transactions, there's like a process tab that, are you pulling it back up, Ashley?
Yeah, let me go ahead and submit this one. Okay, I got an error probably. Go ahead and cancel this. And then the easiest place to actually view where your transaction is, so it's one that you submitted, the easiest place is to go ahead and go into your task box and then go to your archive so that we can see this is that manual journal that we created. And then click on the process tab and it will show you where it's sitting for approval. So this one that I put in, it actually failed budget checks, so it bounced back into my own inbox for me to decide, do we need to actually adjust the budget or should I request an override?
And Ashley, this is the best way to see where things are in the process, correct? Like there's no notification with each step, correct?
I found that Workday is pretty hit or miss on whether it actually gives you that notification. Normally it'll tell you that it's been forwarded to a process, and normally it's just going to tell you it's the budget process, but then you're not going to get anything after that. Any other questions?
I don't see anything additional in the chat right now. Again, we will send a copy of the, or how to access the recording, as well as the handout that actually referenced that summarizes a lot of what she talked about today. If you think of something later and you want to reach out, we're happy to take additional questions. Thank you all for attending. Thanks, Ashley. That was great.
Thank you.
I'll let you know if anything else comes up.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Megan.
Bye.
Appreciate your help.